Jonah Hall to join us. He was not able to get out of Texas, but we remote managed him to still be able to participate in the panel. So our moderator this year, same as last year, is John Bilton from Janus. He is the West Coast Regional Sales Manager for Noki Smart Entry. And he talks with operators all around the country doing various versions of remote management. And so he's a perfect choice to moderate this panel, and I will turn it over to John.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to be here. Let me turn this on as well so I can walk around, because I tend to like to walk. Is this one working as well?
Yep.
Great. Thanks for being here, and looking forward to the update. We did this a year ago. We talked to these same three operators, and I think they are at different stages in the evolution of what they're doing from a technology perspective. And so I want to kind of set the stage a little bit of a reminder about last year, what we did and what we talked about, and then also some current data, and then we're going to really get into what Doug is doing, Adam is doing, as well as Jonah, stuck in Texas a little bit due to an ice storm, but I think this is kind of an interesting way to do a panel, because this is a lot of what's happening in our space today. Just anecdotally, I flew in from Atlanta late last night, and on my electronic boarding pass, I had 3 items on it: TSA, Sky Priority, and Digital ID, which meant I could go through the TSA line, never get my wallet out, don't have to show them a driver's license because I have a digital ID with TSA and Delta. Came to my little Marriott here in Anaheim or Santa Ana. It was late at night. Got my Bonvoy app out, got my digital key on my phone, went to my room, went to bed. I never really had to interact with anybody in all of that process. When I picked up my rental car, same thing. I look at the board, my name's on it. I go, I get in a car, I leave. I do have to show them my ID once as I leave. That was it. That's an experience as a millennial that I appreciate. So, there we go. The 2023 demand study from the SSA is out. And there's a few pieces of data in there that I wanted to share with this audience and with this group, and I think it relates to what we're doing here today. And Lance mentioned this earlier, but who's renting today? The greatest generation, according to the SSA 2023 demand study, 2%. The greatest generation still holds a tremendous amount of wealth in this country. They don't rent storage. 2%. The boomers, of which I'm at the very tail end of it. I'm the youngest of them. Well, not really, but 7%. We kind of suck. We're not renting a lot of storage. Your Gen Zs, 13%. Your millennials, 16, 17%. Your Gen Zs, they're the top group. And so that's who's coming in, that's who's renting, and that's who's going to continue to rent. And they want an experience that looks like this. They really do. And it's got to be mobile. The other thing I thought was really interesting, they asked the question, the means of first learning of storage. They were asking this to a broad audience. They said the tenant response in this case of learning about self-storage, drive-by was 30%. Signage, going by the facility, it's on my way to work, it's on my way home, that's still a big driver in storage, and that sign and location and the local nature of our business is still really important. But the one that really struck me was 41% are now learning about it online. So that's the number one category. Drive is now number 2. For those of us that have been in this industry a long time, the phone book is now at 1%. Yeah, what's a phone book? Some of them are just shaking your heads. Dave Ratliff knows what a phone book is. Dave's he's been doing this for a while, but that's what's changed, and that's a dramatic change. Now, the online was broken out into different sections. So the online didn't just mean they got online. It was Google search for storage. It was going to a specific operator's site. They went to A1 specifically, or they went to another brand specifically. It was also social media. They looked at social media. They looked at Yelp. They looked at places like that. They looked at ratings. They looked at important information from other people that had rented. And that created a 41%, how did they learn about storage? And that's our biggest group today. So what's happened in the last 12 months? Let's introduce the panel. Make sure everybody knows who we're talking about. Let's go to Jonah first. Jonah, if you'll introduce yourself, where you operate, how many stores you have, and kind of where you are in the technology, evolution in your sites.
Major feedback on my end, but I'll try anyway. We are mostly in Texas, have been branching out to Missouri, Oklahoma, and Kansas so far, about to be in Nebraska. We've got 8 stores open today, about 9 to open in the next 60 days or less. Wild this quarter. The tech stack has not changed for us. The refinement of our processes and our internal team members and the way we handle our tech stack has changed a lot in the last year. I think that's it in a nutshell. Is where we're at right now. Ask me more direct questions if you need to, John.
Thank you. Let's go to Adam. I think we've kind of had an update on that. But give us a brief update.
Yeah.
Make sure everybody knows who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah. Superior Storage is our storage brand that we operate. Five locations, all in East Texas, Southern Texas, and we have another 3 that should be coming online. We're in construction. It should be coming online within the next 12 months. And then we'll be purchasing 5 to 8 more this year, existing properties. All of the ones that we have right now are ground-up constructions.
And Doug Jarvie with Anytime. Go ahead, Doug.
It's David, but
David.
That's okay.
Sorry.
With Anytime Storage, we've been around for about 10 years. We have 16 properties operating, the 17th coming online in Pace, Florida, within the next 6 months or so. It's in the middle of construction. We're in Arizona predominantly. We third-party manage 3 facilities in Farmington, New Mexico. And where am I missing? That's it. So it's been an interesting year for us where we've firmly believed in remote management from March 20th, 2020 when COVID happened. We've shut our doors, and I said that last year, and this year we still have not opened them, and we never will. We're running everything virtually. The way we've enhanced our technology stack and our processes have changed a lot. Our kind of philosophy this year has been just be effective, make it work, and then make it efficient. And we're kind of right in between those 2 things right now, but we've defined everything we're doing. We're on our way to be 100% tenant company. Implemented 4 facilities in Hummingbird in the last 2 weeks. Chris is our president of our property management company, and how did they go? How happy were you with the transition? 93% great. Well, as I told Lance yesterday, I said 93% great for a software implementation.
It's good.
It's pretty darn good. Pretty darn, yeah, and especially coming from Chris because he's a bit picky. So pretty good. So.
Thank you. So ultimately, we want to kind of answer 3 big questions today, I think, for these operators. How much savings in operating costs do you attribute to remote management? That'd be one. Mm-hmm. The second would be how much increase in occupancy, or do you have a faster lease up in a new property because of remote management? And the third would be, is remote management helping you to obtain higher retention and or rates So those are all financially kind of driven questions, but we want to understand that. So maybe I'll throw it to Jonah. I think we're doing all right on the audio now. And let's ask Jonah a couple.
All right. You might have to repeat the second question for me, but remote management has led to definitely a decrease in operating expenses. Clearly, it's a much more efficient model. But I think there's a caveat there, and I can't see the panel, so I apologize if I'm kind of out of context here. The first thing is on a one-off property. If you only own one, I think you can see some savings, but to a lesser degree. I think where we really start to see the impact of remote management and the concepts that we're putting in place with our tech stack is when you start to scale up. And I still don't have all the data that I would love to have in my hand for how far our team can manage these properties. And we will. We're on track to do a couple properties a month for the next several years. We'll be at a place where we can really do that. But for right now, the gut feel based on what we see in the office and the data that we do have, which is incomplete, I think one property manager can really manage one in-house remote property manager which is what we call them. They can manage anywhere from 6 to 8 properties, whereas a traditional storage facility, has at least one manager on site, maybe 1.5 if it's a larger facility. So that payroll cost has dropped dramatically. And then in addition to that, we see office expenses going down, supplies, utilities related to on-site payroll. So maybe if you have cable for them or office lights, office water, office internet, those types of things can be reduced as well. As far as a number, I think on a one-off property, you're going to see a 2 to 3 or 4% decrease in operating expenses if you're just one. When you start to scale, it starts to get more dramatic. Maybe more like 8 to 10% decrease in property operating expenses. That was just the first question. I apologize. Go ahead and re-ask the other ones.
That's excellent data. Thank you, Jonah. Let's kind of go to Adam and David on that same question. And also reflect about a year ago. Has it changed in the last 12 months? Is it different?
I think that for us, our customers have become more adapt. So a year ago, we bought a facility down in Port Neches, and we were having to take care of those older tenants that really don't rent very much in smart facilities. Now those customers are all onboarded. They're actually happy. We didn't have hardly any move-outs because of the technology that we implemented. And a lot of them were mad that they couldn't use that on-site manager as their personal therapist. And so now we push them online, and we're like, hey, take care of everything, because we're not paying her for you to lay on a couch and talk. She's not qualified. So that's kind of the biggest issue for us. We take the same approach that Jonah takes. We do it if it's in a lease-up facility, we'll use one manager for 3 properties. That's what we typically see, depending on how large the properties are. But we have a lot of failovers with our capability. We have rollover, so we can have some support admin to those managers that maybe somebody that's doing accounting can actually take one of our video calls or conference calls, VoIP calls, whatever you want to call it, and help support that. So a lot of our admin, we don't have to have all just frontline people just sitting there playing Sudoku, watching Netflix until somebody comes in. We can spread that out. And for us personally, we charge in our management stuff, we charge just a flat $30,000 for labor. So you guys can do the math yourselves on what your guys paying in your current markets. So we charge $30,000 for labor per location. I don't care how big that location is. It's just $30,000. And then we basically increase our we call them RCM managers or our RCMs based on the scale of where they're at and so how many they're doing. So.
Go ahead. A year ago, when we were sitting here, we had just rolled out our first kiosk. We developed our kiosk as well, and it's a 2-screen kiosk, one that has a video conferencing capability on the top screen, and the bottom screen is essentially TI. for doing the lease transactions. We can control that screen as we're talking to the client. We can control all that from our call center in Tucson. So that was where we were last year. We had that. We were running SiteLink on most everything. We had DaVinci locks. What a pain. I mean, just seriously. So from that moment to now, we've standardized on Hummingbird, Mariposa, TI. We're implementing a Noki lock on every door in our network, so every facility is going Noki. Tucson is being converted right now. We're adding 4 kiosks into Tucson right now. We just converted Tucson to Hummingbird, so we finally kind of came to what our technology stack is and what our hardware stack is, and then the processes to the question is, how many facilities is an FTE? How many FTEs per facility, however you want to look at that ratio? I don't know yet. It's probably 4 facilities per person. I don't know, though. Just don't know. You still have to deal with on-site maintenance and caretaking and people problems at facilities, and you still have to deal with all that. A lot of different philosophies that we're working on and strategies on how to do that. I'm very comfortable next year we'll have some really interesting process and procedures to share with you. We did take on our first third-party management with the Farmington deal, and we're managing a property that has been run by a family for 20 years, and we've taken it fully remote, and they've lifted their revenue about $25,000 a month, so $50,000 to $75,000 a month through the way we're running, pricing, yield management, and all that. So we're super excited about all of this, and I wouldn't do anything different. I believe this is the way to go. Customers learned through COVID that this is a product they can buy without talking to a person real time in front of them. That's just the bottom line. I think it accelerated that whole mentality by 10 years, and that's why this works, and that's why it's required, I think.
All right, let's go back to Jonah for a moment. Jonah, question 2 was related to occupancy or faster lease up. Do you see a correlation between, the remote management model and is there an increase in length of stay? Can you lease up faster? Can you do things like that when you have this kind of model? Or do you think the leasing experience is better for the tenant from an onboarding perspective? And is that a better customer experience?
Yeah, absolutely. The answer is definitely yes. That's one of the most dramatic differences between this model and the tech stack and what it does for people. We've kind of adopted the phrase self-service, self-storage. We want the customer to be able to rent when they want, how they want, which is most of the time self-service. They want to do everything like they do when you order Uber Eats or you walk into McDonald's. You got to use a kiosk now, right? Everything is automated. So in our facilities, I have been quoting for years, and I finally went back and made sure that it was still accurate, and it is almost within a percentage point. Half of our rentals happen after hours, after traditional business hours, 9 to 5 weekdays, maybe half for full day Saturday and half a day Sunday. Most of our rentals happen in the evenings, early in the mornings. On Sundays and Saturdays are our biggest days for rentals. And so renting in our facility, that's easy. You pull up your phone, you rent in 5 minutes, and you move in immediately on the Noki app. That has allowed our facilities to, yes, I believe, lease up much quicker. The actual speed at which it's leasing up versus the bank pro formas is pretty astonishing. For example, one of our facilities last year went from grand opening to stabilize in 8 months, and the bank said it would take 19. So, small facility, but it outperformed the bank by over double the speed at which it expected. And I attribute a lot of that to the after-hours rentals. 50% on the dot is what the last 120 days is what we ran yesterday. In addition to that, the self-service service model, we went ahead and ran the number because I know Lance and Travis and others that we were chatting with were interested. 98% of our customers move in without talking to us. That's a large number. So that means 2% call or send a chat or send some sort of help ticket and need additional assistance. 98% figure it out on their own. That's why we can manage facilities so efficiently, and that's why we don't need near as many people to do so.
Thank you very much. I'll let Adam and David talk to that as well on the occupancy, lease up, those kinds of.
We've
metrics.
outperformed, just like Jonah, we've outperformed our performance. And so I wish I had 98% of
Me
people
too.
moving in without talking to
Yeah.
me. I looked, I ran my Excel spreadsheet. My partner would do it in his head. I did it on a spreadsheet, and it was 64.7% of our people actually moved in without even talking to us. And so we were pretty happy to see that. Of course, we want to have those channels that if they do want to talk to us, not about their pet, but about what we do. So we want to have those channels open. What was the rest of the question? I'll just start talking.
That was lease up and occupancy.
Lease up. Yeah, so lease up, I answered that. Sorry, go ahead. I'll let you go.
We'll go to David.
Well, last year, Adam said, he sat up here, and we were doing the Da Vinci locks. I thought we were pretty cute with that. And Adam said, I'm not going to buy a property or build a property unless I can put an Oki lock
true.
on it, right?
That's 100%.
I think you said, if I look at a used property and the economics don't allow me to put an Oki in, I'm not buying it.
That's right.
Is that right?
100%.
Okay, so right after that, we made a decision on our first build in Florida to go all in with Noki and Hummingbird. That opened about 4 months ago. Lease up is going very well. Very well. As far as 98% no touch, no way for us.
Yeah.
Just simply because I don't think we're there yet. Because we don't have Noki everywhere yet. We just don't have that yet. I think that's a key part of it. So
I appreciate that.
And I never got a commission check, by the way. I'm just saying.
It's in the mail. So let's kind of jump to this third one. Retention. The demand study talked about, the 2023 demand study talked about length of stay. And their data was under 3 months, 12%, 3 to 6 months, 19%, 7 to 12 months, 20%, 1 to 2 years, 25%, 3 to 5 years, 16%. Do you have any data concerning retention? And we'll go back to Jonah, start with Jonah on that.
I wish I had more data on that. We're a relatively new company. My very first conversion project was 2018, and the majority of our projects opened 2020 or later. I have some data. The most interesting one, I think, was Adam and I were talking about this on a call the other day. The group of us were talking about how move-outs, the process for move-outs in a remote managed facility affect length of stay. I would say they don't, and that's why I thought it might be interesting to bring up as part of this question. We make it very easy for the customer to understand how to move out, so that, again, we're limiting the number of calls and the number of times that they need to talk to a person. But that has not seemingly impacted our move-out pace or the length of stay indirectly at all, at least to date that we've seen. I think the length of stay, from what I've seen, both in all of our underwriting of properties that we own and the properties we're considering buying, has only grown over the last couple of years. I would say, I don't have the exact numbers, but it's probably somewhere between 12 and 14 months is our average length of stay right now. I'd have to go double check.
Thank you. We'll go to David first, then we'll go to Adam.
It's good because I'm reading my report.
Yeah, I saw you over there looking at that. I don't know how remote management. I think it's too early to say.
Okay.
For us it is, and where we are in transition. But I just don't know. Do you think it's changed anything, Chris? No.
I don't think the factor of move out is reliant upon remote management or the technology. Okay. At least not to our data points yet. Yeah. It's a really good question, though, I think. I mean, one of the things that I know is being worked on and that we're working on is, can we provide data from customer behavior and what they're doing to give an owner-operator the ability to say, this person may have moved out. Now, Jonah mentioned that they give a very clean way for the customer to notify them that they've left. And that may be working really well, but I know that some of the larger organizations, they have move-outs that they don't know about, And if they could rent those spaces, my terminology, double dip for 8 days or 10 days or 2 weeks, that could be significant when you're dealing with hundreds or thousands of doors.
When you're in a high occupancy situation and a 10 by 10 moved out and you don't have any others, and it takes you a few weeks to figure out that they moved out and go inspect it, make sure it's clean and do all that, there's definitely a payback to have a better process. And what Jonah was saying, he has a good process for that. I'd love to hear what it is. I'd love to know what you're doing.
Yeah, can you hear me? So the most impactful thing is letting the customer have an easy understanding of what to do when it's time to move out. So we provide very clear signage on site in multiple locations around the property. Basically, we've just said to heck with it if there's an impact on people moving out sooner than they would have, which I really don't think is a thing, but I want it to be clear when it's time to move out what to do. So they've got a broom near them. They've got very clear instructions, both a QR code and a link to be able to go to upload a photo of the empty unit with their unit number in view. The moment that is in there and our customer service team receives that, they will get moved out. They don't get moved out until that time. And they're pretty clear. We make that as clear as possible. On top of that, the next step I think that's really important for the customer is you have to give them the tools they need to get it cleaned out. So having that broom, having that signage right there allows them to not only understand what to do, but make it very simple to do it. I'm not saying we don't have doors we don't know about for a few days. The last piece and the piece you were just referring to, David, was the process for how quickly can you find a unit that's been emptied out and they didn't alert you. The process for us is it will be no more than 15 days based on our current rolling transition. It could be one day, it could be 15 days, but it won't be any longer than that because we're rolling doors often enough to find them, usually within the first week. And it's a small number, but it happens.
Thank you. Adam, you were looking up some data.
I was, yeah. So I'm right there with Jonah on about a 14-month stay, current average. And so I don't think that it's going to impact whether, I don't know, in my generation, you're part of my generation now. So in my generation, like, it's not like I'm like, oh gosh, there's no one there, so I'm going to move out sooner, right? We don't really think that way. So I don't to me, it doesn't process in my brain very well. The move outs, we try to make just as quick, as easy as those move ins happen. Like Jonah was talking about, you basically use we all use tenant products, and so they move in really quickly. It's seamless. It's so simple. And now how do we move that person out? We use the Texas lease, so we require a 10-day move out notice. Written notice. You can go to our website, do it. You can go to your tenant profile and do it. You can email us from the email that we have on file and do it, right? And this is all signage, right, that we have posted in the hallways at every main access point. When your day of your move out, you just snap a picture like Jonas does. Snap a picture of your empty, swept out, clean unit with your unit number in sight and email it to us at moveout@Get Superior Storage. I like his where he provides a QR code they can upload. I'm going to steal that, by the way. And so they can upload it pretty easily. But we use just an email, and then our RCMs, when they receive that, they literally just kind of go through there and say, okay, done. If we see that there's anything in there, then we call the tenant back and be like, hey, we noticed that it was dirty. You need to go clean it. Or we'll be happy to have one of our caretakers go by and sweep it out for you, but we're going to charge you a cleaning fee. And so it's so simple. The thing I hate is I guess you guys have a lot of people that move out that don't tell you, but we require auto pay. And so to me, if you move out and don't tell me, I'm still going to ding your credit card. And so we changed merchant processors not too long ago. It was a couple months ago. And we end up, Zach, one of our RCMs, he got a call from a guy, and he'd been renting with us. I guess he'd moved out 8 months ago and never told us. And well, he said, can I get refund? No, you can't get refund. I mean, read the addendum in your contract that clearly states this is the move out. And it's like a one-page thing that's on all their contracts. It's on our website. Anyway, it was actually kind of humorous. We had several people that were on auto pay, and they just
Kept paying.
like your Netflix bill. Everybody pays for it, and no one watches it. So maybe you do. I don't know.
Thank you. So this kind of leads us into a couple other data points, and I want to ask this question. The demand study also said today 5% of payments made in the storage business are by check, but 8% is still by cash. Jonah, do you touch checks or cash?
We love this.
We've been 100% digital payments since 2018 and 100% auto pay since early 2021.
No, it's like you can't run this. It's very difficult to run a remote facility and try to take cash or checks. And that's some of those older people that love to write their checks every month to us. And we just tell them, especially when we take over. When we build a brand new facility ground up, it's from like, hey, we don't take cash. Here's our box. You don't fit in it. I'm sorry. And we're not discriminating, right? So some people, we've had this question. I think it was last year. Someone was like, what about the Hispanic population that loves to pay cash? And I'm like, well, they can still pay cash. They just go down to Walmart and get a prepaid gift card, load it on there, and then pay with that credit card. It's because they do it on Amazon, right? They do it with Netflix. They do it with all of these other things that these people do anyway. So it's just defining the way you do business and allowing that customer to adapt to it, because they're already doing it with other businesses. Amazon's done it from day one. No one sends them cash. So why don't we just adopt it? But I guess we think so far out, like 20 years. Well, we've always done it for 30 years. Well, we don't drive jalopies either. So anyway.
We don't take cash.
Sorry.
Do you take checks?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Don't wanna.
Okay.
A little bit.
I've had some sites tell me they don't take cash, but they will take a money order.
Yeah.
And they run it through that machine, and that's how they do it. But it's obviously the numbers have dropped dramatically in that space. So another question: how often are you touching your remotely managed facilities, Jonah? Do you have a maintenance person? How often do you have boots on the ground at the site?
Yeah, weekly. Yeah, we have people on site every week. They're local contacts. They're 1099. They work on an ad hoc basis. Every facility has a slightly different pay schedule depending on what we find in that local market, but it's always very reasonable, very small amount of money. They're going through and they're doing cleaning, safety checks. We have a pretty simple but pretty exhaustive for us checklist of things that they sign their name to that they've checked for us. And then they do all the ad hoc stuff that our customer service guys in the office need to be handled while they're there. And then in addition to that, our guys will actually do site visits on a periodic rotation as well. And that's more of a deep dive. They're going to do the things like check Nokia batteries and maybe preemptively change one. They're going to do they have the mindset of of a self-storage property manager. So they're going to be able to do a little bit more preventive maintenance, thoughtful analysis of the property, and come back with a recommendation.
Still talking.
2 to 3 to make sure we're all.
Gotta love the internet. Jonah, can you hear us? Thumbs up. Okay. Jonah?
Jonah, come back.
Can you hear us? We had an audience question. How do you verify that they've done the work at the site on your checklist?
Well, you need extensive cameras on the property. Typically, while they're doing the walkthrough, one of our guys are there with them, at least for a portion of it, especially if they're doing anything that's customer service related, if they're checking anything for us that's beyond just the normal cleaning or normal walkthrough. But we've got cameras on every angle. There's basically not a corner on the facility we can't see from our office. And when someone is there, we're watching over them. Not necessarily a customer. We're not we're not watching every customer. That's a waste of time if you're spending money having your guys watch the facility every time a customer's there. But while the local contact is on site, we're kind of walking them through the steps until you know that they're doing a good job, and then you don't necessarily need to do that every time.
Adam, how often are they touching?
We're touching every property every day right now. We have caretakers in regions, and they take care of multiple properties. As we gravitate towards more Noki, we'll do that less. It's just we think that's a savings that we can have by, you keep in mind we're still using Da Vinci locks at a lot of places, and that is a whole lot of hand holding, a whole lot of juggling, and going out and changing locks and assigning locks and figuring out why a customer is still using the Da Vinci lock. They haven't put their lock on yet, and they haven't put their Da Vinci locks in the box and all this kind of stuff. So cannot wait for that to be over, because that burns a lot of time and requires you to be there.
So anybody from our team, maybe once a quarter, we go to an actual site. We have caretakers, and that's what we call them as well. Our caretakers, we ask that they just kind of zip through the property once a week, kind of check things, open the Noki app, because we are 100% Noki, so you open the app and you can see if any units are unlocked or anything. So it kind of, using technology to speed that up is great. And then we don't have those same people. We outsource all of our cleaning or any maintenance that has to be done. I want professionals to do what professionals do. And so we have GCs that we have working with us in the different areas that we're at. Like Port Neches is 4 hours away from us, so we have a GC contact down in Port Neches. If I need anything done, I'll literally call him, and I'm done with it. And he just sends me a snapshot or a picture that, hey, this is completed. We have professional cleaning services that clean once a week. Now, they don't do anything but clean bathrooms, hallways, stuff like that. So... Did I answer your question? Sure,
you did. Thank you. I have a quick
name.
question. From a technology perspective, what is the biggest challenge, and how do you feel about scalability? Maybe we'll start with David.
I have zero concerns about scalability. I want more properties to manage because I can get more efficient. More people, the more properties you have, the more inbound calls, the better you can fill in gaps. And I have zero issue with technology scaling here at all.
Thank you.
Yeah, I feel like. I'm sorry?
Yeah, what's your biggest challenges, maybe?
Well, we're just going through the brain damage of converting everything over right now. So it's a multi-million-dollar project, and there's a lot of work involved to get everything to where your new facilities are already, right? So we're converting a lot of old properties. So.
I don't have any. I wouldn't say any challenges are when you take over new property or old properties, right? The new properties to us it's pretty easy. It's not difficult. People make it very difficult to run these remote, and they're super simple to run remote. The challenges are trying to convert old people over if you're taking over an existing property. We're obviously in the same bucket as David here. We're adding properties as quickly as we can. So scalability, I think we get better. The larger we get, the better we get.
Absolutely.
And so I'm happy to scale as quickly as possible. Limiting factor.
I think we've got quite a few questions. Scott's got a question, and we'll go to Brian.
We have the tenant solution with regards to website, property management system. We have the Noki solution with regards to controlled access, etc. But another big piece of this is the security camera integration between the facility and your home office and the viewing of all of that. So that piece is kind of missing here. So what are each of you doing to solve that problem? Or is everybody using different vendors depending on where you are geographically and so forth?
Jonah, were you able to hear that?
Yeah, I could hear it. I'll go first. That's fine. I hate cameras. Camera systems, there's not really a good one today. We've tried, a dozen different ones. Settled on a few that we are okay with, but I wouldn't recommend any of them necessarily at the moment. we're constantly tweaking and learning and trying to find a better solution. For that very purpose of the last question about scalability, we're trying to scale here, and we want the simplistic single login to see any property at any time for our customer service guys. And as we're creating work for ourselves every time we try a new camera system, but in the hopes that we can streamline the process. We've done everything from the commercial line of Ring products to Chinese knockoff products that we've adopted and built our own software for, to pretty much all the expensive models, which I've steered away from. They're just not worth the cost to me. The goal is simple. You just want to have eyes on site. You don't need it to record 24/7. You don't need it to do all sorts of fancy things. You can do fancy things, and that's great, but for our model, we just don't need it to do all that extra stuff. And so we're looking for the simplistic, always ready, doesn't go down very often kind of camera system, because obviously a remote managed property in northern Missouri or the tip of Texas, you don't want to have to go just because your camera system is not up to snuff. So we're doing our best to continue learning what's on the market. And in fact, we're employing a brand new product on our facility opening next month. Let's see how that goes too. So
That was a good question, Scott. Brian, you had a question?
So my question is, you just said one of your staff gets to the facility once a quarter. God, I wish it could happen that way in California. We have break-ins and security issues nonstop. Nonstop. And I have a really nice store with all the security you can have. And they'll dig in, cut in, jump over.
Cut through.
So how do you deal with that, with showing up at a store every quarter? Because it takes my managers and district managers.
Yeah, do you run Noki on your facilities?
No.
Yeah, there's your
But
problem.
I don't, because,
Yeah.
well, if I had Noki, they'll take a crowbar to that. It costs me a lot more.
Oh, that's okay. Then you'll get the notification on your smart device that says, hey, you had heat signature or motion coming out of whatever unit number it is. So and they do the same thing in Texas. We just shoot them. So they'll get to the top roof, right, and they'll cut down. Isn't that right, Jonah? I know Jonah got a gun back there behind him somewhere. But they'll cut through the ceiling of the property and drop down, right? And so they get very creative. But at the same time, with the Noki products, it's going to give, if it's a rented unit, it'll send the motion notification to the actual tenant. So then the tenant is calling, and we've had it before. Hey, there's motion coming out of my unit. Is everything okay? And we're like, I don't know. We'll have somebody go by and look at it, or you can go by. You live there. And so we'll call Doris, depending on what Doris is, our Port Neches lady. So we'll call her and run down there and say, because we ask, if we call you with an issue and you're a caretaker, 24 to 48 hours, we ask that you go by and take care of it. Never had an issue with it. And so security cameras, we use Lux Pro. We use the same software at every location. Yep. And so we just sit there and click through. We have all of the DVRs in there grouped by location, and we just drop them down. That's how we do our daily walkarounds. So I'm not saying that we're just sitting on our hands every day and we just don't even look at the property for once a quarter. We're clicking through that property every day, doing a virtual walk around, seeing if anything is left out, anything like that. I'm sure you guys do something very similar.
We do. I want a robot.
Yeah.
I was just telling Chris, I want a robot that's going to walk around and do.
I love it.
I got to have.
I can do a robot dance. You want to see it?
Yeah.
I charge for that. But.
That's a really good question, Brian. In a public meeting up in Deer Valley recently, the guys at Extra Space were on a panel, and I don't know if you heard it or not, but one of their VPs said they have a 10,000 plus population of Nokia doors. And he said at those sites we have 1/5 the break-ins. Now that they just said it off the cuff. I don't know what that break-in percentage was. They didn't say where it was, other than that those sites were at 1/5. You're sitting with a wonderful universal insurance person. I don't want to put her on the spot, but I do know that as we talk to some of the insurance providers, the number of claims that they have associated with the smart lock versus a traditional hasp is much lower. Do you have any feel for that, or?
No, that's exactly right. Not only is it less, the motion detection inside is finding people before something gets serious, before there's a fire, and we're just seeing many less claims at facilities? Much better response.
I mean, we have alarms and they scream. And we can see these guys and cameras were having, and it doesn't bother them one bit.
Yeah.
They go down with a crowbar and they're just hitting them. So I was just asking about these remote ones.
Yeah.
We would love to do that.
Yeah.
But
Hire a
every time
sniper.
that happens, my manager has to be on the phone. People are showing up, and you got all these repair people. So I don't know how you do that with almost nobody showing up to the stores.
Yeah.
Guard-
Well, none of
guard-
mine. We
guard
have
dog
caretakers.
rentals.
Guard dog
Guard
rentals.
rental, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but we have people walk on. We have cleaning. We have other people on site that are 1099 employees to us or contractors. It's not like we're never there. It's just our personal employees or my personal employees don't really go down. There's really no need for us to go there because we have 1099 people that are doing checks for us on it. And so I'd hire a sniper.
He is in Texas.
Okay,
Carl.
So we've got 40,000 square foot stores here in California, 90,000 square foot one in Vegas. My question to all you guys is, how many is this payroll or man hours, or I mean, how many hours is it? Let's just say per week on a 40,000 square foot store or a 90,000 square foot. What you call these 1099 people? Like, how many hours is it a week? And I'm curious, how much are you paying?
So in Texas, like Miss Doris down in our Port Neches location, that was one that we took over. We pay her a flat fee of $1,000 a month. That's it. On existing locations that are, because we paid her because we knew she was going to have to go up there and walk some of these older people through. Here's how you reset your Apple password. Because that is literally the biggest question is these people have issues remembering that password or their wife has it somewhere. And so we pay her a little more. All of our other locations, $500 per month per location. So like Tyler, where we have a group of 3 properties, we pay the same person. We'll pay the same person $1,500 a month, and they'll just kind of circle through that. How long? They're probably on site. I would guess no more than probably 4 hours a week. So at best.
And available to be called out.
Yeah, they're available. Yeah, anytime. So like Miss Doris, she has another job that she works full time, and so she'll just swing through there. And really, she rents a couple of storage units from us as well. And so really, it's kind of a wash, but because she pays us back. So.
We've got a couple minutes left. We'll take a couple more questions. This gentleman over here on the left.
Hey, so I'm curious, has there been a particular situation where you wish something was like, has there been anything out of the blue? Because it sounds like you guys have thought this through pretty extensively, but have you ever had something unexpected where you're just like, wow, it would have been nice to have a manager on site there?
Jonah, maybe they're nodding their heads, so we'll go to Jonah first, and we'll answer that question.
I didn't really hear the question, John. Why don't you repeat it for me?
In this model that you've had from a remote management perspective, have you had something unusual or unexpected happen that you wish you'd have had a manager on site for?
I think it's only during the transition period. David and Adam have alluded to this a lot. When you're taking over an existing site, there's a lot of hand-holding that first few months. Almost so much so in some cases that you might be better off leaving a manager on site for the first month or two just to have somebody there all the time because it's crazy. I think the biggest hurdles, the biggest unexpecteds was just the pain on the front end. This is really 2 years ago now, but we don't see it as much today. Although I'm not taking over existing sites as often, we're doing a lot of conversions, brand new builds. So on day one we don't have any tenants, but the technology is great, but it has to communicate with other vendors and their technology. And so you've got tenant talking to Nokia, and you've got Nokia talking to whatever. And so when you've got the technologies each getting their own update and maybe not quite syncing with the other update, that has caused issues in the past. Things that we end up having to go communicate with each one of our tenants on something. Hey, by the way, this is not going to work for the next however many hours or whatever. That has gone down to such a small number now. I wouldn't say that that's even something to be concerned about. You're welcome. I guess we all went through the pain for you. I think they've really got it down to a science. It's a lot better than it used to be. But the out of the blue items, Not really. I can't really think of a real example. Obviously, if you had a break-in, you'd rather one of your employees be there to represent the company than a 1099. But we've got pretty good 1099s that really can do a good job of showing up and helping handle a situation if needed. So, not really. No.
Thank you. I saw David and Adam kind of nodding their heads on that question. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's occasions when we wish we had the old model where the manager was there to hold somebody's hand when there was a problem. I think it's transitional, though. I think ultimately, you go into McDonald's, you go to the kiosk, you buy your cheeseburger and your Diet Coke. 99.99% of the time it goes fine. I think that's where we're headed here as well. So
I think it's always that everybody wants technology to work 100% of the time at all times and never fail, or I'm not doing it. Well, that just doesn't happen. Technology does fail. APIs break. People make, like Jonah said, people do updates, and then something now the system's not talking. And it's just relax, stay calm, work through the problem. It doesn't really take that long to resolve it. A weird thing we had when we took over, I'll use Port Neches again, I guess I'm going to pick on them today, is somebody called and said, there is water all over in your office. And I'm like, there's water everywhere. So it was like right after we took over. I guess the air conditioner is above that office, and it was leaking everywhere inside the office. They forgot to hook up when they did the conversion stuff. They forgot to hook up something. But for us, it was like, man, I wish it wasn't 4 hours away. We could just send somebody real quick to do it. But then I stopped thinking, like, wait a minute. We have a network of people that we've already put into place, and you're just kind of going down that checklist. Let's call the GC. Hey, could you get over there and look at that? They had it fixed within about 3 hours, had it completely cleaned up and repainted, and we were done. So it's really just thinking through those scenarios, those oddities that come up, and what's the contingency plan. It's not like, oh, see this, I can't do remote management because there may be a 5% chance that there's an oddity that pops up. It's more like, hey, we're doing remote, let's figure it out. And so,
one last one.
David, you mentioned earlier that one of your sites, after going full remote, was getting $25,000 a month.
Yes.
Is it just a really massive facility, or what were the things that created such a...
It was 3 facilities. The increase of top line increase was simply due to pricing and yield management that just wasn't done there. Their expense numbers went up a little bit because they're now paying a management company, and we're charging a fee per door to do all the automated remote stuff for them. But it was mostly yield management. It was just pricing, knowing the market, knowing how to deal with that.
Well, that was fabulous. Thank you very much, panel. Great.